Isn't it strange? We live among billions of people, all rushing, talking, chasing after something they can't quite name. Some call it happiness, others call it purpose. But if you peel away every word, beneath it all remains the same quiet thirst, the desire to love and to be loved. You can have everything the world tells you to have, the full account, the warm home, the name others remember. Yet at the end of the day, when all the noise settles, there is still a small space waiting for you in the silence. And what does that space ask for? No more success, not more praise, only something simple. To be seen, to be touched, to know that you are enough. Somehow, we've turned the simplest thing in life into the most complicated. We chase love, bargain for it, hide it beneath other names. We call it commitment, compatibility, chemistry, as if love were an equation we could solve. Somewhere along the way, we forgot that love is not a currency to exchange, nor a reward for being worthy. It's what remains when all the roles fall away. Still, most of us learned the opposite. As children, we discovered that affection came more easily when we were good, when we pleased others. So we grew up believing that love must be earned. We put on masks, shape ourselves into the right version just to be chosen, to stay. And in doing so, we forget one simple truth. The only one who can truly give and receive love is the one who stops trying to be someone else. The tragedy is not that love is rare. It's that it has always been here, while we've been too busy searching outside to notice. In this journey, I want to remind you of something simple. Real love is not something you find, but something you remember. You have been loved since the moment you were born, long before you ever learned to be deserving. Stay a while. By the end, you may feel what has never left you, the quiet sense of being held by life itself. Not because you are perfect, but simply because you exist. If you want to understand why love has become so difficult, you have to return to the first years of your life, not through memory, but through feeling. Do you remember the first time you sensed you had to do something to be loved? Maybe it was when you cried too loudly and someone said you were being bad, or when you brought home a good grade and received a hug, and something inside you learned that love seemed to arrive as a reward for doing right. No one had to teach you. You simply lived long enough to understand that love comes with conditions. So you began to build an invisible formula inside. If I'm good, I'll be held. If I make people happy, I'll be allowed to stay. If I fail, love will be taken away. Every child learns this lesson. Some forget it, some never do. As we grow, we carry that formula into everything without realizing it. We no longer beg for a parent's affection, but we look for it in a lover's eyes, in our work, in society. We become adults, still earning points in every relationship, trying to be good enough, interesting enough, safe enough to not be left behind. Everything goes quiet. Do you see how we've turned love into a lifelong exam? And the irony is, the harder we try to be enough, the further we drift from love itself. Because real love cannot reach someone who is performing. It only arrives when you stop proving that you deserve it. But stopping is hard, because within us still lives that child who believes acceptance must be earned. Conditional love is no one's fault. It's the result of hearts that were never taught they were already enough. And when we don't know that, we pass it on, teaching others to love the same mistaken way we once learned. When love is planted in the soil of condition, it soon becomes a transaction, a quiet contract two people sign without knowing it. I give you safety, you give me attention. I make you happy, you make me feel worthy. And so every gesture, every hug, every warm word carries an invisible number, a subtle exchange. We call it love, but in truth, it is a negotiation between two fears. One afraid of being left, the other afraid of not being needed. That's why love, instead of freeing us, often exhausts us more than anything else. Everything goes quiet. If you look closely, you'll see that in many relationships, it's not two people who are in love, but two roles performing together. Each tries to play their part well, to stay within the lines, because if they slip, the contract may dissolve. Alan Watts once said, "We are mistaken when we think love is about giving and receiving. It isn't two-way, it is circular. But we rarely understand that, because we've been trained to measure. In love, we count. When we give, we expect to receive. When we don't, we hurt. When we give too much, we tire. And in that fatigue, we begin to compare. What did I do wrong? Why don't they love me the way I love them?" So love, the very thing that once made us feel alive, turns into a weight we can hardly carry. Yet perhaps the issue isn't that we loved the wrong person, but that we misunderstood love itself. When you love to be loved back, you're buying, not giving. When you try to prove you're worthy of being chosen, you're working, not living. True love cannot be bargained for because it has no price. It doesn't arrive when you are enough, but when you stop trying. When you stop trying to make someone happy and simply become present, love starts to flow again. It asks for nothing. It measures nothing. It's like breathing. You don't have to earn it. You only have to stop running long enough to realize it's been there all along. If you observe long enough, you'll see that people don't simply seek love. They're addicted to it. Not to the feeling of affection, but to the hunger it creates. Each time we're noticed, cared for, or desired, it's like a small dose of medicine that makes us forget our native loneliness. But when the dose fades, the hunger returns, and we begin again. A new person, a new hope, a new illusion. Everything goes quiet. This cycle isn't a failure. It's the natural outcome of a deep fear within us, the fear of not being loved. So each time someone appears, we rush to become what they need, doing everything to be chosen, and in the process, we drift further from ourselves. Alan Watts once said, "People don't know how to be alone with themselves, so they use others to forget who they are." How true that is. We think we are loving, but really we're searching for someone who will let us escape the emptiness inside. At the beginning of a relationship, we feel full because for a moment, we don't have to face ourselves. But when the other person stops filling that void, the emptiness returns, and we call it falling out of love. It isn't love that fades. It's the illusion of being saved that dissolves. Then many conclude they've chosen the wrong person instead of seeing that the way they love has been wrong. We don't truly seek love. We seek a place to hide from our loneliness. Jung called this the shadow of desire, the part of us that longs to be seen but fears what will be revealed. We crave closeness, yet can't handle real intimacy because it demands honesty. It asks us to drop the mask that says, "I'm someone worthy of love." And so we repeat the same script again and again. Love, hope, disappointment, leave, return. Each time we think it's a new beginning, but it's just another chapter of the same story. Alan Watts said, "Conditional love is tiring because it flows not from fullness but from lack. When you are full, you don't demand love. You are love. When you are empty, you use love as fuel to keep existing. The paradox is this: only when you no longer need love do you truly become capable of it. Let this settle not in your mind but in your heart, in the stillness. because sometimes, only after all the noise has faded, can real love finally be heard. Imagine a river beginning somewhere distant, winding through mountains, fields, and cities. The water moves endlessly, sometimes gentle, sometimes hurried, always seeking the ocean it has never seen. Along the way, it gathers dust, branches, and even the debris people throw into it. It carries them, believing they are part of what it is. We are much the same. All our lives, we move, carrying with us conditions, memories, and beliefs about love that we've picked up along the way. We think, if I'm good enough, I'll be loved. If I'm strong enough, I won't be left. And so we live as tired rivers, heavy with what doesn't belong to us, still searching for an ocean we don't realize is our own source. Everything goes quiet. Alan Watts once said, "You cannot grasp love any more than a river can hold the ocean in its hands." The river meets the ocean only when it surrenders, when it stops forcing direction, stops fearing the loss of its shape. And that is what frightens us most. Surrender. We fear that if we stop searching, stop proving, stop striving, we will disappear. Yet the paradox is that only when you stop, you discover you were never separate from the ocean. The river doesn't need to find the sea because water has always been the sea. Love is the same. It cannot be chased because the very act of chasing becomes the barrier. True love has no goal, no winner or loser. It is the natural state that arises when fear is gone. And then, you no longer love someone, you simply love. The way a flower gives fragrance, or the sun shines, not for a reason, not for reward. Water flows because it is water. Love flows because it is your nature. Perhaps everything you once called loss is simply water returning home. Every drop will find its way to the sea, no matter how far it has wandered. And when it finally touches the ocean, the river does not vanish. It remembers where it has always belonged. Pause for a moment and observe. Do you notice that most of the time, you are not really loving but trying to be loved? Every message you send, every gesture you make, every softness you offer carries within it a quiet question. Do they still need me? You smile, you listen, you agree, not because you don't know your boundaries, but because you fear that if you don't, they will leave. Everything goes quiet. You once thought you were living for love, but in truth, you were living in fear of losing it. And strangely, the more you try to hold on, the further love slips away. For love born of fear is no longer love. It is control. Alan Watts once said, "We cannot hold on to anything without causing it to slip through our fingers." When you want love to stay, you become its gatekeeper instead of its companion. You start to measure. I gave this much. How much will they give back? If they don't need me, do I still have worth? But true love doesn't know those equations. It doesn't ask, doesn't weigh, doesn't bargain. It appears only when you stop trying to become something. If you feel tired, it's because you've been loving through effort instead of essence. Your body knows this. Every time you swallow your tears to seem okay, your chest tightens. Every time you say it's fine, while your heart cracks, your breath shortens. The body is always more honest than the mind. It knows when you are doing something unnatural, trying to earn what should come as naturally as breathing. Look directly at this truth. You don't need to prove anything to be loved. You don't need to shrink to fit inside someone else's heart. If someone only stays when you match the image they want, they don't love you. They love their reflection in you. And if you have ever found yourself in such a relationship, don't blame yourself. You are only learning the same lesson all of humanity is learning, that no one can give you real love until you stop trying to earn it. True love is not a relationship. It is a state of being. Like the breath, it needs no reason to exist. The moment you think you must do something to earn it, you step away from where love begins. Everything goes quiet. Alan Watts once said, "We do not come to love to become complete. We come to love when we are complete." Yet most people step into love like seekers of medicine. We think that if someone loves us, the broken pieces will mend, the fears will soften, and peace will return. But no one can carry that for us. No one can fill a bottomless cup. When you love from emptiness, every kind gesture hides a silent plea. Please love me back. But when you love from fullness, love becomes a natural flow. It doesn't demand, doesn't fear loss, doesn't calculate. When you are full, you no longer need anyone to prove your worth. You are free. And from that freedom, real love begins. Alan Watts said, "When you no longer need love, you become love." Try to feel this rather than understand it. Love is not an act of will. It is the outcome of presence. Like when you stand before a sunset, you don't try to see beauty, you simply see. Likewise, when you are fully present with another, without judgment, without expectation, you are loving. This kind of love cannot promise because it does not possess. It can only live, move, and change shape according to the space it passes through. Many ask, but if love doesn't need, is it still deep? The answer is deeper than ever, because only when there is nothing to hold on to can we truly touch. People often mistake passion for the height of love, but passion still carries fear. True love is calm, like still water, quiet, unperforming, yet reflecting everything. When two people meet in that state, they are no longer halves seeking what's missing. They are two oceans meeting, not to fill a void, but to expand their horizon. They do not love to become more. They love because they already are. That is the freedom of love, what the world calls rare, but has always been here within you, simply waiting for you to stop and notice. You cannot learn love from quotes or philosophy. Love is not something to be learned, but something to be remembered. Just as you cannot learn how to sleep, you can only stop trying, and sleep comes on its own. Everything goes quiet. Love is the same. It appears when you stop controlling, stop asking how to love right, stop trying to become someone worthy of it. Alan Watts once said, "You cannot make a flower bloom by pulling its petals open. You can only create the conditions for it to open by itself. And that is something you can begin now. First, learn to stay with yourself. Sit in silence. No phone, no music, no plans. Just you, your breath, and the feeling of being. At first, it may feel empty, maybe even uncomfortable, but if you stay long enough, you'll see that emptiness isn't frightening. It is the ground where love grows. Next, observe the way you love. When you give, ask yourself, am I giving from fullness or from fear of losing? You don't need to fix the answer, just see it. Awareness is the beginning of freedom. Finally, be grateful for this small, quiet life. Not with grand declarations, but with simple noticing. The light on the wall, the breeze passing through, the steady rhythm of your heart. When you truly see, you understand that love is not something to be achieved. It has always been here, in every breath of life. And when you stop searching, love begins to find you, not in one person or one moment, but in everything. Because when you are still, you become the very love you have been looking for. Alan Watts once said, "You cannot grasp love. just as you cannot grasp water in your hands. Only when you open your palm can the water remain. It sounds simple, yet we spend our lives doing the opposite. We tighten our grip. We fear losing, being forgotten, and being unnecessary. And it is precisely when we cling that love slips through our fingers. Everything goes quiet. If you look around, you'll see that most people love from fear. They do not truly seek connection. They seek certainty. They do not look for aliveness. They look for control. But love cannot exist where control lives. It does not bloom in the hands of one trying to force it open. Jung called this the paradox of light. The harder you try to hold on to the light, the greater the shadow within you grows, because what you call love then is merely the echo of fear. True love is free because it does not belong to you. It passes through you like current through a wire. You cannot make it stay, but you can keep yourself in the state that allows it to flow. And that state is the stillness everyone is searching for. Real love does not bring excitement, it brings peace. It does not make your heart race. It makes you breathe deeper. It does not ask you to become anyone. It makes you feel safe being yourself. Perhaps this is the hardest truth to accept. You do not need to be loved to know your worth. You are worthy because you exist. You were loved from the very first moment life breathed itself into you. You were not asked, not tested, not chosen. You were born, and that alone is proof of unconditional love. When you see this, when you truly understand that you were never lacking, you stop searching. And when you stop searching, love begins to find you, not as a person, but as life itself. In every light that spills across the wall, in every passing laugh, in every breath. Jung once said, "When we accept ourselves completely, we love as God loves." Perhaps that is the love Alan Watts spoke of, without condition, without destination, only presence. Pain never disappears. It only changes its shape. One day, when you stop running after love, you'll realize that the old pain has softened, like a small wave that lingers after the sea has calmed. You take a deep breath, and that very breath becomes proof that you are still loved, not by anyone in particular, but by life itself. Everything goes quiet. In that stillness, you see that love never left. It lives in every slant of morning light, in every breeze that brushes past, in the simple fact that you are still here, still able to feel. And you understand, you don't have to be perfect to be loved. You only have to be present. Alan Watts once said, "When you stop trying to grasp love, you discover that you are it. You no longer need to search, because you have already found it, not in a person, not in a promise, but in the quiet truth that you have always been enough, always been loved, always been love itself." And if you feel this, write in the comments, "I am enough to love and be loved." In the end, you realize you were never alone, never lacking, never needing to go anywhere to find love. You were simply remembering.